Right, so let's make a start. I've logged into Build here, and the first thing I'm going to do is create a new project. So I'll click the New Project button, and I'll give it a title. And then just click on it to go into the project. And I'll click on the page map, and I'll add a page. I'm actually going to add 2 pages, so I'll add another responsive page. And then I'll just click in and get into the editor. So now I'm in the editor, I'm looking at page 1. I've got available controls here, I've got some assets, like if I want to upload files, and then I've got a data section which I'll go through in a second. But just to get started, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set I'm going to set it to tablet mode, and I'll just zoom it so that you guys can see. So let me say on this page I want to show the header, and I want to give it a title. And the other thing I want to do on the page is I want to add a list. I'll just take away the fixed width, and that should then fill the width of the screen. Okay, so I'll start with that on page 1, and then I'll just jump down to page 2. And I've got 2 things I want to have on page 2. So I want to have an item header, and I just want to fix the width of that. Let me just drag that back in. So I want to have the item header, and I also want to have a table on this page. So you'll see where I'm going with this in a second. And again, with the table, I'll just remove the fixed width. And I want to show the header here too. And I want this to be the items page. So this is the second page. Okay, so that's a start. Now the next bit I want to show you is this data section. So in the data section you can start the data editor, and you've got a couple of options. Right? So I want to add some data to my prototype. I can do that manually, and I can actually create the objects manually like this, and I can create properties, and then I could add another object, and I can create a relationship between the two. I can go in and then fill the data set with some data. I want to type it in manually. Do it like that. But what I'm going to do for this example is I'm going to go back and I'm going to import the data from a file. I choose this file. And it's brought in this data model. So I've got sales orders, I've got related customers, I've got the sales order items, and I've got products. And what I'm going to show is we have 2 pages in the prototype, so I'm going to go from the sales order, a list of sales orders. I'm going to navigate by clicking on one of the items in that list to the sales order item, and that's going to display in the table some details about the products that were ordered. So if you like, you can just have a look here about the data that's in the table. You can see the related customer data, sales order item details here too. Okay, so let me go back now. I'll go back to page 1. what I want to do now is I want to take some of that data that we've created and populate the list. So I can just grab the sales order data and drop it on the first list item here. And you'll see that's actually pulled the data now from the table that we created. I want to do the same for page 2. In this case, I want to set the main object for the page to be sales order. And then I want to take the sales order items and drop them into the table. Okay. So let me go back to page 1. And I just want to clean this up a little bit. So let me remove some of the fields that we don't need. So I'm not going to use the introduction. I want the title to actually be the name. I want the number to be the creation date. I don't want the number unit at all. I want the first attribute here. Let me just have a look. So the first attribute, I'd like to be customer name. And the first status. I'd like to be the status of the sales order. And then we'll just delete the second attribute and delete the second status. And this simplifies it a little bit. Also, we don't need the footer here, so I'll get rid of that. And then let me go in and clean up page 2 a little bit. Okay, so now one last thing to do before I preview this. I want to change the type here to detail and active. And I want to say when I press the item, I'd like to navigate to page 2. Okay, so fingers crossed. I preview this. Okay, so here's my list of sales orders. I press on one, brings me through, shows me the items for that sales order. Oh, I click back and it's not working. So I haven't forgot one little thing on the back button. I need to tell it what to do. So I need to navigate back to page 1. So try that. Okay, so let me try the back button now. There we go. So now my little prototype is working as expected. Okay, so let me hop back to the editor. The last thing I need to do here is I want to publish this. I'll just publish my prototype. It gives me the URL for it. Now that it's published, I'd like to actually create a study. Okay, so I've created a study, and it's created the first task for me. So I'll just drill into this task. And I'm going to set a task for the end user here. So I'll call it drill down to sales order items. And I'll just say find the sales order items for each sales order. And you'll notice that it said that the start page is the first page and the target page is going to be my second details items page there. So I'll say that's done. And I can just say I want to publish that study. So now I can send this URL out to people to take the study. What I'll do is I'll just pretend I'm an end user who's been asked to participate in this study. I'll come in and I'll say, yep, I want to start the study. And it's giving me some instructions. So drill down to the sales order items, find the sales order items for each sales order, and start the task. So here's my prototype. Unfortunately, it's a little bit cut off in this view, but basically I'm going to click on the item, I'm going to drill through, I'm going to find the sales order items here, and I'm going to say I finished this task, and then I'm going to say I actually want to provide some feedback. So I can click on an area of the screen and I can write a comment. So why is the date here? And I'll save that. And I'll say I'm done. So I'll just close that down and I'll come back here and I'll look at my study and I'll say, okay, so I'll have to look at some of this analytics. So one person has taken the study, it took them 20 seconds. Here was some feedback and they successfully completed the task. And you can have a look at who's done so, etc. That's a nice way to do a quick study and see if your prototype is, fitting the needs of your users and it's being well understood. Final thing I'd like to do here is show you how you can take this prototype and import it into the SAP WebIDE. So let me go into the IDE here. I'm going to come up here and say new project from template, and I'm going to choose the build project. I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to choose the build system, choose the prototype that we just created, and it's now creating a new project in my workspace for that prototype. So here it is. You can see it's created the views. You can have a look at that. So we can open it with the code editor or the layout editor. You can see that's the layout editor. This is the code that it's generated. You can see it's also put in the model. And you can actually look at the sample data. And now I'd quickly like to run it. So I need to create a new configuration. I'm just going to call that. And the little trick is to choose not to open with a frame. So I can save that. And then I can come up here and say run. And lo and behold, here's our prototype now inside the WebIDE, and it's still working. Okay, so that's it. I hope that's given you some insight into how to use build, and showing you a little bit about how to build a prototype, how to connect that prototype up to some data, how to publish the prototype, create a study, and also go into the WebIDE and import that prototype and run it. And you can see the code that's generated. So you could hand this prototype over to a developer who could actually plug it into the real back-end system. Thank you.